everyone, and welcome back to the Wilson Wealth Show. I'm your host, Ciera, and today I have Maurice with me. How you doing, Maurice?
Hey, I'm doing good. Just got back from Florida uh, by way of Disney World and Universal Studios. And the jet lag is real. So I'm definitely
Oh, I
feeling the
bet.
effects. Um,
Disney, though. Disney's fun. Did y'all have
yeah.
fun?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely got spent a lot of time with the family. A lot of discussions and pool time. So I am, refreshed to some extent. Got the first trip out of the way and looking forward to doing a couple more trips. Might go back up to DC this year. I'm more of a driver than a flyer, so I'm looking to do more road trips for the
Mm,
remainder of the summer.
road trips are fun. I definitely prefer road trips. I am not a big flyer. Don't really like it. I am the person who gets sick every time. I don't know
Ah,
about you, but
oh wow,
every time I get on a plane, I am sick.
yeah, it is a big tube, full of crud in the sky. So it's like it's a
Exactly.
petri dish. It's an airborne petri dish.
It's exactly. You're
Yes.
just breathing in people's breath. I'm just being
Yeah.
real
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
for
yeah.
like hours.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to the Wilson Wealth Show, a thought provoking show about building wealth in the new economy. Each week, members of the Wilson Wealth team and their guests will discuss how to navigate the world of personal finance, stocks, real estate, and entrepreneurship to help you build wealth in the new economy. And now, here is your host, Ciera McCosh.
All right, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Today's topic is Biden's new proposed marriage tax. Now, I don't know who all has heard about this because I personally had no idea. I found this topic while searching for another topic we will get into next week called the wedding tax. I'm sure we've all heard of Biden's plan to tax the 1% more, but I never really considered how that would affect couples filing jointly who both make equally high amounts of money. Maurice, were you aware of Biden's marriage tax?
No. I was too busy celebrating Kamala's inauguration, if you will. And I have largely gone dark on all things politics. I've been worn out since '08. Well, I've been worn out since the last administration, not a political view at all. Just I kind of reached my limit in the '08 campaign and kind of I've just largely let those things operate. So I know anytime you mention the tax word, whether it's right or left, it's always people don't like paying it. I figured it's something that I can already hear the opinions either way. So I just ignore it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, unfortunately, politics goes into it. We might have to get into it. But for some context, currently the tax code separates single and married filers with a top rate of 37% for individuals earning a little over $500,000 and couples making more than $628,000. Biden wants to increase the highest tax rate to 39.6%, which would impact the top 1%, quote unquote. The proposal may still affect individuals making less than 400,000, however. For example, let's say each person makes about 260,000 under Biden's plan, those couples may pay higher taxes filing together than on their own, which makes sense. A lot of people are calling this a marriage penalty, which I suppose I could understand considering a lot of people get married sooner rather than later for tax purposes. I mean, we've all heard of that one, right?
Right.
I understand people who this would affect aren't the average Joe either. I mean, 260K a person in a household is a lot of money, but these people aren't millionaires, They're still, they're most likely, I would say, STEM, married to other STEM, maybe small business owners. Maurice, I'm sure you have plenty of clients that fit this category.
Definitely, and they all hate paying taxes. And you know, at the end of the day, I was just talking with a client CPA about this. It's all about the frame of reference. Most people operate from $100,000 frame of
Mm,
reference, give or take several thousand, in between. So when these couples marry each other, like you said, 6-figure income here, 6-figure income there, or they reach it individually, and then as a household are north of 250, 225, they hate taxes, but it's just a byproduct of life. And so I'd much rather struggle with a marriage tax because I'm partnered with someone who's just as successful as I am
Mm.
than to figure out which bread line we're going to stand in. So to me, these are first world issues. I don't want to seem insensitive, but yeah, they're my clients. Nobody likes it, but the alternative is way worse in my opinion. So
Oh, I agree. I
mhm.
agree completely. I mean, a lot of people are mad about it just because they're saying, "Oh, well, this is punishing married couples," and I can see where they're coming from their point of view. I do, but I do think it's very important that we tax the 1%.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I believe in redistribution. I know it's a dirty word, but I look at the tax system as the uh, part of that machinery in the American system that prevents us from becoming a third world country or a poorly functioning first world country.
Mm,
When you allow, and a good analogy is the body. If all of the blood, like you can make a good case that, hey, the brain, the top functioning organism in the body, deserves to have the lion's share of the blood, right? You can make a case for that. It's the computer. But if you don't put enough blood in the feet and the appendages, that body is not going to move. So you do a
mm,
lot of thinking, but you aren't moving. That is
mm,
just what happens in a country where the rich, if you want to call it that, or the top 1% have the lion's share of the money. Now, we don't always call money money. There are tons of words for money, and another word for it is currency. So just like a body needs blood to circulate, i.e., current, through the
mm.
body, we need money
Mhm.
circulating through the American economy. So it's sometimes you need to have money with the consumers and the middle class to make sure the country's moving forward. So taxes make that happen. I expect people to try to cheat on taxes. I expect the IRS to track them down and get it, and let's just get the party going. I mean, that's just what it is. So you complain, you avoid or you pay. The IRS finds you or they don't find you, and we just make it happen. But redistribution has to happen. Historically speaking, if it doesn't, you do not have good outcomes.
Oh, I completely agree. I completely agree. I mean, I think at this point, it's 2021. We all know that trickle down economics isn't a thing. We
Right.
all know the wealth needs to be redistributed. It is what it is. Nobody likes paying taxes. Not
Mhm.
a single person on earth likes it, but it's got to happen. I mean, we need to pass this wealth around a little bit cuz we struggling out here. I don't know about you,
Well, I
but
mean, you can just run. I mean, there are numbers that people don't pay attention to that would maybe the people have to understand, like, there's a theory that people at the top have completely earned their way to the top, and that's just not true. It's a collective. I know people don't like hearing the word collective, but
Mm,
the government built the internet, the government built the infrastructure. But when they say the government, we built the internet, we built the infrastructure. We're the taxpayers. I mean, we provide the capital for those things. Now, on top of those basic, uh, systems, infrastructure, roads, railways, uh, airways, traffic, airports, things like that, businesses are able to deliver goods and services to people throughout the country. Uh, Companies can sell stuff over the internet. Now what starts to happen, or what's been happening, you mentioned trickle down, not to make this kind of a lesson, but people who came out of college making 50,000 a year in 2000, if you adjust that for inflation, they should come out of college making 75,000 today. Most people consider $75,000 a mid-career income.
oh
you know,
yeah.
right,
Yeah. You're
right.
doing well.
They're doing
Like
well. So this money is not, you've had stagnant income. Now, what's happened in the last 20 years? Well, colleges are a lot more expensive. We know houses are a lot more expensive if you can find one. All your rent has gone up, everything has gone up, but the starting incomes haven't gone up. So if the starting incomes for the middle class haven't gone up, and then
Mm.
we played funny games with minimum wage.
Oh
Well, here's
yeah.
the thing: the money is there. Where has it gone? It's going to the top, right?
Oh my
These
God, yeah.
these CEO pays. So the money, the pie is there, but it's increasingly at the top. And then they play games. Forget politics. It's just smart divide and conquer games to keep these things in place. It's just what I would expect them to do it. And at some point, politics or not, the system recalibrates. Like it's recalibrating now. Post pandemic, people are like, screw these jobs. I'm quitting, to do
Mm-hmm.
something else. I'm not going to risk my life for these garbage wages. And this is
Oh
not
yeah.
just your McDonald person. These are, decently compensated people. They want to work from home, right? They're more emboldened to work from home. So the system is recalibrating. People know they're getting worked. So
Oh yeah.
taxes are a way of keeping that in check without all these major resets. You can just gradually redistribute the taxes and redistribute the wealth. And the thing is, when you redistribute the wealth, you have more money at the top, for people to earn with a healthy bottom. Like it's just better. It's like, again, the body, like sharing that blood flow, that blood, in an equitable manner without getting into socialism and all that garbage, is the way forward. And the taxes are in place to do it. And the thing is, we should just calibrate the system from time to time. If Biden raises taxes, put a sunset provision on it. If we lower
Mm.
taxes, put a sunset provision on it. We're smart enough to reevaluate. We don't have to have hey, it's only going to be 15%, for capital gains forever. Like, no, let's say, okay, next 5 years, 15%. That's what we need. Maybe we need to raise it or reevaluate it. Like, it doesn't need to be
Mm.
this war every time. And so I know I'm rambling, but it's just like
No, no, go.
we're smart. I mean, humans, we got way more systems to evaluate things. It shouldn't be. I just think what it is I know what it is. There's a feeling that taxes should always go down, and we need to make people very familiar that they can go down and up. And if we understand that and we explain to the public why it's going up or why it's going down, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
there's just a general like knee jerk reaction to like taxes being raised.
Mhm.
Like it's always like, oh my God, this is going to affect me. Like I promise it is not going to like affect 90% of the population. And that's just true. Like, and 90% is generous.
Right.
Like
Right.
really it's probably
Right.
like
Well,
98%.
and that and I want, and don't lose your train of thought. Write down what you're going to write.
No, no,
There's
go
a
ahead.
reason why you're able to make that statement. It gets at the core of what we're talking about here. We, for the last 41 years, and almost 40 years plus the year we're in now, have practiced reducing taxes at the top.
Mm.
Now, people at the top don't make money the way everybody else does. They don't have a quote unquote job. Like these are people who max out a 401k the first hour of work, so if you
God,
want to call
yeah.
it work, right? So these people are making money in very creative ways. Like you've heard of private equity, probably. Everybody kind
Mhm.
of hears that term. What it basically means is instead of putting your money in the stock market, you put money in private companies. Now, the way they bundle and package these companies, it's so complex that the IRS doesn't even bother auditing it. But they're still making money. There's an exit plan for people who start these companies. What I'm getting at is those people are not being taxed in proportion to like everybody else. So when these taxes go up, what Biden's doing is like targeting, the 1%. And if most people are honest, you're doing good, but you're not doing like that good. You're not in
Mhm.
this conversation.
Right.
Like I mean, I can tell you right now, unless you're in the C-suite, you're not on your own making over 200,000. So the
Mm.
odds of you and your wife making over two, or spouse or partner making over 200,000 each is very rare. And then if you do, you're going to do a deferred, 401k. That's an easy 52,000 if you're over 50, or 29,000 if you're under 50, 22,000. Excuse me, the numbers are probably off in my head. 40 something thousand that you can knock off of that top number. So you're just not in this conversation.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing. Like we've
yeah.
got some advice. Like We
Yeah.
got some advice for the people who
Yeah.
are part of this
Yes, please
conversation.
do.
There's a few of you,
Yeah.
and this is for you. But ultimately, for most of you who, might be worried about it, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing to worry
Yeah.
about.
Stop carrying the water for the really rich, not the affluent. The affluent are fine. The really rich. We're talking about folks. If you just sit back and think, I was in the airport and I told my wife, I'm gonna go over here and look at the magazine covers to see what's going on.
Hmm.
And so you get a good idea of what's going on in the world if you just look at magazine covers at the airport. And so I checked out Forbes. Last year, Forbes added 493 billionaires. Now, when you think about,
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? like
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. I actually was going to mention, I saw a video the other day. I think it went viral, it was circling around, but basically it was just showing how many billionaires we have and
right,
how much in comparison to like people who we think are really rich. Like let's
right,
just say for like the younger generation, the richest YouTubers, like they've got a lot of money. Like we
right.
see that all the time, right?
Exactly.
And then you see it in comparison, like they did like a size chart
Yeah.
that compared like, all right, well, this person has like $58 billion, then we go to $100 billion, and then it just kept going. And then you think that Jeff Bezos is getting close to a trillion.
Yeah.
Like I can't even really map out how much a trillion is just in my head.
Right.
I really can't. I can't put it into perspective because it's so much more money than I have ever thought about.
Well, I mean, you can just go 1 billion, right? Let's just go 1 billion. 1 billion divided by each day in the year is $2.7 million. That means you would need to spend $2.7 million a day just to get a billion down. Make sure I did that right. I'm doing that on the fly. but yeah, 100 million plus one. Yeah, that's it,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and so that's 1 billion. Now, these guys, as you said earlier, are several billionaires several times over. So that is the 1% we're talking about. And
yeah,
again, these folks aren't making their money like W-2. They typically own companies. We're talking capital gains. We're talking just a lot of different ways that they make money. Now,
yeah,
what's allowed them to do it? Yes, ingenuity, blah, 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 hard work, self-made. I get that garbage, right? I get it. At the end of the day, though, what's allowed anybody to make money in a country like America is a strong system that protects intellectual property, protects legal rights, protects you can build $1 million house and not have to put a personal security team around it because we have a police force.
mm,
We've got an infrastructure in place that the taxpayers pay for. Just pay your share. And these folks know this. I just need the middle of the income of the economic ladder to stop protecting these people.
I don't understand why.
Because they're the
Because
only ones doing it, because the poor people can't protect. They're too busy working 3 jobs, and they were putting voting rights in place so they can't vote. So it's only the people in the middle who are protecting these people. Go ahead and say your point. I'm sorry.
and I don't know why, and I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe it's because they feel like they will be part of that one day, or there's also that whole thing about the American dream. Like people
Right,
get really stuck on that. Like,
right,
oh, this is the only country in the world where like you can get this rich and it's technically kosher,
right, right.
But it's not.
You can China has billionaires that they then censor. Jack Ma being the most famous one right now. I mean, a billionaire, I forget his name in China, and that's very important to understand. Like people think Jack Ma's the only billionaire in China. There are billionaires in China. One guy wrote a poem that kind of shut down their market. Like it was so controversial that the
Mm,
government stepped in and told them, hey, they censored them and all this stuff. Like, so they've got billionaires in China that we don't even know about. Like America's not the only place you can become a billionaire.
right, right, right. And that's not what I was trying to
Like,
say. I'm just saying, like, America protects billionaires a lot because of this whole concept of the American dream. Like
well,
that everybody talks about that, like, oh, you can be self-made. Like I have family members that, have made a very decent amount of money and they started from nothing. They came up,
all right,
definition of the American dream, love them.
all right,
Um, but they're nowhere near what these
exactly.
people are at.
Exactly. Exactly.
Nowhere
Exactly.
close. And
Exactly.
they're very well off. Like they
Yeah.
are fine.
Oh yeah.
But nowhere close to the top 1%
I mean, there's a
because
dividing line. If you don't have 100 million, you're not in this conversation. And
no.
if you have 100 million, you're not in this conversation. So it's like,
Dude, even
like
100 million is just kind of like,
yeah,
like it's
yeah,
great. The amount of wealth is
yeah,
insane.
yeah,
It blows my mind to think about it. There have been
yeah.
a lot of conversations about it lately, and I've been learning more about it. And I'm just like, how do they have so much money? It really
Oh,
does blow my mind.
what's the multiplier effect? I mean, a lot of these folks can enter the public markets and their companies, will be valued. Most recently, I would say Coinbase, if you don't have those public markets like Bezos, right?
Hmm.
Amazon, he's not a trillionaire without, or near trillionaire. Well, the company itself is worth, I think, 2 trillion now, without the public markets to create an exit strategy to buy those shares off of them.
Mm,
So privately, it's like owning a home that you never get to sell. Like, we all understand that your house is worth a lot of money, but until you can sell it to somebody, that value is hypothetical. That's how
interesting.
Amazon would be. It would be like, yeah, or a better case are these sports franchises. Until somebody comes and buys that team from that owner, we could talk about how valuable it is, but somebody has to take that off his hand. The stock market does that for these folks. Now, that's important because, well, how does the stock market function in an orderly manner? The SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is a government institution funded by taxpayers. Like, it's all going to go back to a partnership between public and private, and
Mm,
a good faith that you're going to put your share in, and we can always calibrate that share. But it shouldn't be that it's always going down. And if it went down for a while, which it has for the last 41 years, fine. We've got things to do now. It needs to go up. As I said before, if you're just one billionaire, if you just have a billion liquid, you can spend 2.7 million a day. I think at the end of half a year, you would have run out of things to buy. So throw a couple of percentage points into the bucket, per the rules, and we'll get there. I know this is like highly controversial.
I mean, it is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
we believe what we believe. I
Right.
mean, we're for the people. We always have
Right.
been. I mean, that's the whole
Exactly.
point.
Definitely. Definitely.
But, it is very frustrating.
Hmm.
It is very frustrating. And on top of everything else, um, when I was researching this topic, the numbers are slightly different in every single article I looked at.
Hmm.
Like, not different enough to make like a huge difference, but different enough to where you can tell that they're trying to like kind of incite panic in people. Like, they're like, I've seen like the most official numbers that I saw were the ones that I originally stated, and they were based off of I can't remember what the name was, but it was a branch of the White House that deals with this kind of stuff. So I am positive those are the correct numbers. But then you see other articles that are just kind of, I mean, I don't want to say like low grade news or anything like that, but you know what I'm talking about. But that are like a little bit more politically charged, that like lower the numbers a little bit, because you can tell they're trying to like incite panic in people, which I really don't appreciate, like.
Right.
And even so, like the difference is maybe like $100,000.
Hmm.
So it's not that big of a difference, but it's enough to where people are like, wait a minute, that broadens, the amount of people that could be in this. Like, oh my gosh, this could affect people that I know, and then they freak out. When in reality, it's not affecting people that they know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just it's an old game. And we know the results of both ends. If you don't do this on some level, eventually the system will just recalibrate in a much less orderly fashion. Um, and so, you know, uh, it's kind of like I tell people, the roof is leaking. Now you can ignore the leak, or you can repair the whole roof. So, or you can fix the leak and save the roof. So either way, it doesn't really matter what the politics are, what the individual opinions are. The system has to support itself or collapse. And so, you can only tax that middle for so long. In
Mm,
terms of the different viewpoints on the articles, hey, that's just standard, politicization, if that's the right word, of these of these things. Yeah, you know, I think this is where we get into the news. I think people have a misunderstanding of how news works. Um, they got to sell papers, and so
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they should lie, but I'm saying that if you're selling papers, the very concept of a headline means you're no longer doing fact-based reporting. You've chosen what to lead with based on who you think your audience is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not even, this has always gone on. Uh, I think, if anything, I like having two very different viewpoints because, sometimes the side you're for is, you know, uh, shifting, your opinion a little bit. So if you can get somebody else who's diametrically opposed to what you believe in, then you're getting both sides of the story, right? I'm cool with it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, now there's some things that can be inflammatory that we've seen. I won't pick a date. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. But that speaks more to who we are as a country than the news sources.
Mm,
If we're strong as a country, then certain things will happen, always have happened, and then the systems and institutions will kick in. But if those institutions are also sick because of the people, well, then you're just going to get what you get. And until those things get fixed, you have what you have. This country is, we've been divided before on all things. It's called the Civil War. And so, I'm not saying we should have one. I'm just saying that, you know, these things get recalibrated eventually. You can't have two countries in terms of a whole two different set of rules, two different ways of living and whatnot. You become weaker as a nation. So at some point,
right.
you have to find that compromise, and which is why we have 50 states with different
Yeah.
legislatures and whatnot. And so the system and people will pick where they want to live accordingly, and then we'll just go about it. So we'll get there. I mean, who's lying? I guess, I guess that's all about. Here's the thing. You'll find out when our political system, our legislature passes what or approves or denies or whatever gets passed. And then it
Right.
comes time to pay taxes. The truth is whatever you pay,
Yeah.
so
That's true. That's true. And for those who don't know, this hasn't gone into effect yet.
right.
We're not sure when it's going to go into effect. They're saying like if it does go into effect by 2022, I mean they're thinking maybe 2022, but that's not like official because I'm sure there's like a lot of pushback on this. So we will see. But let's go ahead and get into some advice for the people this will affect. Basically, if the law doesn't kick in until 2022, watch the timing of the year end or for first quarter income. Self employed filers might try to accelerate 2022 income into late 2021 before the measure goes into effect, right? Any couples over the threshold may also explore filing separately. Simple solution. Those impacted may need to prioritize deductions. I do feel like deductions are kind of like going to be your best friend in this scenario, kind of like what you mentioned earlier, Maurice. Also, couples may consider tax deferred accounts like a 401k or individual retirement account to reduce income. And those itemizing tax deductions may also consider charitable gifts. So basically, focus on your deductions. It's gonna, any deductions that you have are gonna be a lot more important if this happens.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that,
Well, I
Maurice?
mean, it's important. Yeah. And I just think people need to get away from sticker shock and really look at your situation. Like if you
Mm.
are, it's not that you make a 500,000. Let's just pick a number that they're talking about, or even 600,000. It's how much over are you
Yeah,
making?
yeah, yeah.
So the bulk, if you make 599,000, um, then yeah, maybe your last, I mean, I don't know if even you meet the threshold, right? So we're really talking about couples that are, comfortably making over these numbers, which is thus the 1% conversation. I mean, what kind of couple would make, let's just say, 1 million a year? What would that take? And I love doing this with business owners or future business owners. So if you're going to make 1 million a year, that you're claiming as income,
Yeah.
not that your business made 1 million.
No, like your
Um,
personal income.
yeah. So let's just say you're gonna make 1 million, right? All right. So you either sell 1 million widgets at $1 each, or you sell 100,000 widgets at $10 each. But even then, That's the gross. So what's your net? Like, what do you actually claim? So now you got to either raise your prices or sell a lot more widgets. How many people are running businesses where their businesses are making like $2 million, of which they can claim 1 million? Not many. Most businesses are
Yeah.
mom and pop shops. So that takes you down to your W-2 folks. If you're not in that C-suite, you're not making $500,000 on your own. Now, if you're in sales, that's a different story. But for the large part, people hate sales. They're not in those type of sales. And if they are in those sales, they're working for big Fortune 500 companies that can pay them, lots of money. So this is largely, again, that small top 1%, which is why, again, if the people in the middle can just not, protect these folks with their votes, then we can maybe get some things going and start to recalibrate the system accordingly. So my advice is, if you are W-2 making this much money, you're largely stuck, max out those 401ks. But if you're self-employed, you got a lot more options, to kind of deduct, use them accordingly. But for the most part, I seriously think this is for a very minor group of people. Don't sweat it. But if you do think you have a problem, definitely come talk to me, and we can help you out.
Yeah, smaller group of people than you think.
Yes.
And, we're here for you guys. We are. If you think this applies to you and you want some advice, you want to talk about it, want to figure out if you're in the threshold, or just want some general financial advice, contact us. We're here. We got you.
Definitely.
All right. With that being said, thank you all for listening. Please visit us at www.wilsonwealth.com, on Instagram and Twitter at Wilson Wealth, and on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Wilson Wealth for more information about us and the company. We'll see you guys next week on the Wilson Wealth Show.
Thank you for listening to the Wilson Wealth Show, a thought-provoking show about building wealth in the new economy. Each week, members of the Wilson Wealth team and their guests will discuss how to navigate the world of stocks, real estate, and entrepreneurship to help you build wealth in the new economy. Please join us next time on the Wilson Wealth Show.